We live on a placid island of ignorance, in the midst of black seas of infinity, and we were not meant to voyage far. The sciences, each straining in their own direction, have so far done us little harm, but one day the piecing together of dissociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. This is what Francis Wayland Thurston discovered. This is what drove him to madness, and this is the horror he left behind. Part 1. The Horror in Clay. It began, as all great horrors do, with something small, something overlooked. Thurston inherited the papers of his granduncle, Professor George Gamble Angel, a distinguished professor of Semitic languages at Brown University. An elderly scholar of impeccable reputation, a man of reason. He died under mysterious circumstances, the official cause, a heart attack. But there were whispers of something else, something the authorities could not explain. The professor had been jostled by a nautical-looking Negro in a dark alley, and within days he was dead. But before his death, Professor Angel had been investigating something that consumed his final days. In his papers, Thurston found a locked metal box. Inside lay a peculiar bas-relief sculpture, a hideous thing of greenish-black stone. It depicted a creature, if such a thing could be called, a creature. A monstrous figure with an octopus-like head, its face a mass of writhing feelers, a scaly, rubbery body, prodigious claws on its hind and fore feet, long, narrow wings sprouting from its back, and its posture, bloated, malign, a thing from nightmare itself. Beneath it, scrawled in crude letters, CTHULHUFHTAGN. The sculpture had been brought to Professor Angel by a young artist named Henry Anthony Wilcox, a precocious but sickly sculptor from Providence. And with it came a tale most disturbing. Wilcox told the professor that he had been plagued by terrible dreams that began on the 1st of March, 1925. Dreams of cyclopean cities, impossible geometries, non-Euclidean architecture that hurt the mind to contemplate, massive stone blocks and monoliths dripping with green ooze, and through these nightmares walked things, ancient things, and always, through the darkness of sleep, came a voice, a call, Cthulhu, Cthulhu Ftan. Punglui Mglwanaf, Cthulhu Rilia Wagahnagal Ftang. The dreams lasted for weeks, driving Wilcox to the edge of madness. He sculpted what he saw, that terrible idol. Then, as suddenly as they began, the dreams stopped. On the 2nd of April, Wilcox awoke free of the nightmares. Professor Angel might have dismissed this as the fevered imagination of an artistic mind, but for one terrifying fact. He had heard these nightmares before. Part 2. The Tale of Inspector Legrasse. 17 years earlier, in the winter of 1908, Professor Angel had attended a meeting of the American Archaeological Society. There, a policeman from Louisiana, Inspector John Raymond Legrasse, presented a case that had baffled him, a case involving mass hysteria, ritual murder, and a hideous idol recovered from the swamps. Deep in the bayou country, in the region of wooded swamps south of New Orleans, the locals had long whispered of strange gatherings, of drums in the night, of fires glimpsed through the trees, of disappearances. On the 1st of November, 1907, the police raided one of these gatherings. What they found would haunt them forever. a clearing in the forest, a great ring of worshippers, squatting Negroes, mixed with a sprinkling of white men, 100 souls or more, chanting and dancing around a central fire. Their voices rose in unholy unison, crying out words in no known language. Punglui mugluanav Cthulhu relie wagan naglaftagen. At the center of this mad congregation stood a monolith of granite, and atop it, an idol, the same hideous figure that young Wilcox would later sculpt from his dreams. The police scattered the cult and arrested many. But what the prisoners revealed was far more disturbing than the ceremony itself. They spoke of ancient gods that had ruled the earth in ages past, gods that came from the stars when the world was young, gods that now slept in death, but were not truly dead. In his house at Relie, dead Cthulhu waits, dreaming. They said that when the stars were right, when the cosmic alignments fell into their proper positions, the great old ones would rise again. They would emerge from their underwater tombs and reclaim the earth, and their faithful would be there to greet them, to be taught new ways to kill and revel in ecstasy. The prisoners spoke of Cthulhu as their high priest, the thing that would awaken first, the herald of the returning gods. Professor Angel had heard this tale 17 years before Wilcox came to him with identical dreams, identical words, an identical idol, the dreams, the call. It had happened before. Part 3. The Madness from the Sea. But Thurston's investigation did not end with his granduncle's papers. No, there was one more piece to this terrible puzzle. While researching old newspaper clippings, Thurston came across an article from the Sydney Bulletin. It told of a Norwegian ship, the Emma, that had been picked up in distress off the coast of New Zealand in April of 1925. The same time young Wilcox had been dreaming, the ship had encountered something at sea, something that left only one survivor, a man named Gustav Johansen. His tale, recorded in a journal, spoke of events so bizarre that authorities dismissed him as mad. Thurston traveled to Oslo. He found the widow of Gustav Johansen, and she gave him the journal. What Thurston read in those salt-stained pages would be the final piece of a cosmic horror beyond human comprehension. The Emma had been cruising through strange waters when they encountered another vessel, the Alert. But this was no ordinary ship. It was crewed by a mixed group of men, dark-skinned and Polynesian, and they attacked the Emma without warning. The Norwegians fought back and prevailed, taking control of the Alert. And aboard that vessel, they found an idol, the same loathsome figure, and charts leading to a location in the South Pacific, coordinates that should have led to nothing but empty ocean. Driven by curiosity, by fate itself, the crew sailed to those coordinates, and on the 2nd of April, 1925, they found it, an island, rising from the depths where no island should exist. A nightmare of cyclopean stone rising from the sea like some vast, drowned monument clawing its way back to the surface of the world. The geometry was all wrong. The angles hurt to look upon. Massive blocks of stone covered in hieroglyphics and carvings of creatures that should not be. Buildings that towered impossibly high, their architecture defying the laws of physics and sanity. Johansen and 2 others went ashore. They climbed the slippery stones. They passed through doorways too large for any human to have built. And finally, they came to a great door, a door sealed for eons. But the stars were right, the seals were weakening, and when they pushed against that monolithic portal, it opened. What emerged from that darkness, what shambled forth from Merlia's tomb, was Cthulhu himself. The thing was like the idol, but mountainous, hundreds of feet tall, a gelatinous mass of protoplasmic flesh that seemed to flow and shift, defying any fixed form. The tentacles writhed. The eyes blazed with an intelligence older than the earth itself. And it called to them, not with words, with thoughts that burned through their minds like acid. Johansen's companions fled, but ran the wrong way. The thing caught them, absorbed them. They were gone in an instant, consumed by that impossible flesh. Johansen ran back to the ship. He started the engines. But Cthulhu pursued, wading through the ocean itself, its form too massive, too alien, too wrong to comprehend. In an act of pure instinct, pure survival madness, Johansen turned the Emma around and rammed the ship directly into Cthulhu's head. The creature exploded, burst apart in a spray of foul-smelling ichor and squirming matter, but even as the ship passed through its scattered form, Johansen watched in the mirror. He watched as the pieces began to flow back together, reuniting, reforming. It could not be killed. It would not die. But Johansen did not stay to witness the full resurrection. The Emma limped away as fast as her engines could carry her, and behind them, the island, that terrible risen Erlaye, began to sink once more beneath the waves. The stars had shifted. The time was not yet right. And Cthulhu returned to his deathless slumber. Johansen made it back to civilization, but his mind was shattered. He died shortly after, some say of fright. His journal, the only evidence of what he had witnessed. Epilogue. The eternal dread Francis Wayland Thurston pieced it all together. The dreams, the cult, the risen island. All of it connected across continents and decades by a single, terrible truth. The great old ones are real. They sleep beneath the earth, beneath the sea, in dimensions beyond our comprehension. And when the stars align, they stir. In March of 1925, something happened. Some cosmic event, some stellar alignment, caused Cthulhu to awaken briefly. And across the world, sensitive minds, artists, dreamers, those whose thoughts ventured too close to the void, felt his call. They dreamed his dreams. They heard his voice. They knew. Thurston understood now why his grand-uncle had died. The professor had learned too much, had drawn too close to the truth, and in a world where such knowledge exists, knowing is dangerous. Thurston concluded his account with a terrible certainty. He knew he was being watched, knew that the cult, those faithful servants of the sleeping gods, would come for him as they had come for his grand-uncle. He left his papers behind, hoping someone would understand, hoping someone would carry the warning forward. And then, he too, died under mysterious circumstances. So, we are left with the knowledge, the terrible truth, that beneath the surface of our ordinary world, ancient horrors wait in deathless sleep, that humanity's reign upon this earth is a fleeting accident, a brief interlude between the ages of the old ones. And one day, when the stars are right again, Cthulhu will rise. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and perhaps it is better that we do not voyage too far, for some things are not meant to be known. Finglui Munglunaf Cthulhu relia waga nagel vertagen. The end